Hi, comrades. So, we usually don't talk about sexual predators until after the fact, after the harm has already been done. The fact of the matter is that we live in a society where sexual abuse is extremely common, and being revolutionaries, leftists, and people who are trying to generally do better than what we see around us, this does not mean that there are not predators among us. Experience has taught us quite the opposite. Just look at the ISO, the International Socialist Organization, who was wrapped up in two different rape scandals that played a part in their recent dissolution. From an article in the Medium on the ISO and the rape scandal of rapist Joe Richard. Unbeknownst to the vast majority of the organization and most, but not all, of the new steering committee, one of those newly elected to the national leadership on the Independence and Struggle platform, Joe Richard, was found guilty of sexual misconduct and rape by an internal ISO investigation in 2013. The results of that probe were covered up by the 2013 steering committee and whitewashed by the second rigged investigation orchestrated by the 2013 steering committee. By the time the national conference call on March 24, 2019, to discuss proposals about the ISO's future was held, resignations had shattered the organization. The group's nominal membership of 980 in January fell to under 500. That's in 2 months' time. So, not only do sexual predators harm their victims, but they also damage and wreck the organizations that protect and enable them. A lesser-known case of a rapist within the ISO also found is Chuck Stempky. He was in the local leadership of San Diego in the ISO. Here's from an article I found on the internet. The San Diego chapter of ISO found Chuck Stempky guilty of attempted rape in 2013, only because he was slated to speak on a women's rights panel and a non-ISO activist, who I actually know personally, came forward against Stempky and ISO. Leadership merely expelled him with no further consequences. So I was actually arrested with Chuck Stempky in 2008 during a civil disobedience protesting the ban on gay marriage that passed in California. I know some intimate details including of this particular case, including the fact that some San Diego ISO members actually attempted to defend and sweep the allegations made against Chuck under the rug, which was made impossible by the work of a non-ISO comrade ensuring this issue was taken seriously. And unfortunately, the ISO isn't alone in this. Just do a little digging and you'll find numerous examples within the anti-capitalist movement. Let's talk about Redneck Revolt from the Greater Seattle Defense Committee. It has recently come to our attention that Dave Strano, a founding member of Redneck Revolt and the John Brown Gun Club, has demonstrated a history of betrayal and sexual and psychological abuse, and we issue this statement in solidarity with the survivors of those behaviors. And the more you dig, the more you'll find that many leftist groups have cases of sexual predators in their organizations and all the wrong actions taken to prevent abuse and to hold these abusers accountable. In the case of Redneck Revolt and Dave Strano, Redneck Revolt went on to publicly distance themselves from Dave to say, oh, we've removed him from leadership, we no longer organize with him. But in fact, Redneck Revolt went on to organize and to support Dave's next project. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. So the questions that come to mind are, what do we do to prevent sexual abuse within our organizations? How do we identify abusers within our ranks, and how do we handle their removal, especially before they harm anyone? Well, one way to address this problem is to understand what grooming is and what it looks like. The American Bar Association has some information on spotting grooming behavior, and I'll include a link in the video description. And let's never forget that predators use grooming techniques to abuse people of all ages. From the American Bar. In many child sexual abuse cases, the abuse is preceded by sexual grooming. 1. Sexual grooming is a preparatory process in which perpetrators gradually gain a person's or organization's trust with the intent to be sexually abusive. The victim is usually a child, teen, or vulnerable adult. Understanding sexual grooming and behaviors can help professionals prevent sexual abuse before it occurs. 2. Evidence of sexual grooming can be used to convict offenders in those jurisdictions where sexual grooming is a crime, and substantiate allegations of sexual abuse where a victim's testimony is unclear or misleading. Where it occurs. Grooming may take place in numerous settings: in person, via the internet, or institutional settings. One aspect of grooming is an adult who displays age and gender preferences. End quote. So I've seen folks posting on social media about these types of relationships, and there's always a slew of men who come to defend older men taking advantage of younger people, mostly women and girls. Even if these sexual predators aren't actively seeking out these relationships or aren't actively engaging in directly harming anyone, by arguing in favor of these relationships, by arguing in opposition to age of consent laws, that's another common one, by arguing that these types of relationships are natural, this is a form of grooming. They are attempting to normalize and convince everyone else that this predatory behavior is okay. Considering the statistics, I feel that men have an extra obligation to research and understand this issue. We have to teach men and boys that it is not okay to take advantage of youth, it is not okay to take advantage of young women or girls, and that we will not tolerate this type of abuse within our movements, our parties, and our organizations. Please take a look at the links to resources on preventing violence, understanding and identifying grooming, and other resources in the video description. Thank you so much for your time, comrades. Have a good one.